The crew of Space Shuttle Endeavour went to bed Monday morning having deployed one of the new solar array wings on the International Space Station. And flight controllers spent the day monitoring how the new hardware was generating power and storing it in the batteries on the newly installed P6 truss structure. The resident crew on board ISS awoke Monday to find that solar array wing extended. While engineers studied the new power channel, Space Station Commander Bill Shepard expressed confidence in their abilities and gratitude for the added power capacity.
We're looking forward to getting more power on the station, having enough to heat the node up so we can get in there routinely, and having access to the full complex of modules that we have on board.
After a very busy day spacewalking Sunday, mission specialists Joe Tanner and Carlos Noriega checked their spacesuits and configured tools to be used during the second spacewalk on Tuesday. They later joined their crewmates on the flight deck for discussions of the plan being developed for deploying the second solar array wing. The dynamics of the first array during its extension Sunday evening was a topic for Tanner and Commander Brent Jett during interviews Monday afternoon.
Yeah, it was like you were loading up a spring and then it would release. The tension mechanism is a spring basically, and as it stretched out, it put enough tension on the stuck blanket box or the panels to cause them to break loose, and then the spring would retract again, and then the whole process would keep occurring as the panels broke loose. We had pretty good camera views during the deploy. When we saw the arrays deploy in Sunnyvale, we did see that the arrays would sometimes not unfurl all at the same point. You would get an array that was folded over. So initially, we were a little bit surprised by where the arrays were sticking and how much the tension bar was being pulled up. But our primary concern and the criteria we were using inside the cockpit was the actual condition of the mast. We probably should have been maybe a little more concerned about the tension cables, but we were really focusing on the mast and how it was coming out, whether it was coming out straight and whether it was deforming at all due to the unfurling of the arrays. And that all looked good to us, and we just made a judgment call that it looked like the tension bar was doing its, or at least helping to unstick the arrays, and we thought we would be able to get them all out.
While the astronauts were reviewing the new strategy for extending the second solar array wing, known as Power Channel 4B, spacecraft communicator Joan Higginbotham in the Space Station Flight Control Room reported a landmark for Channel 2B, the wing they deployed Sunday night.
Yeah, I just want to pass on some extremely good news to you from the station side. We have a fully functional, nominal 2B channel at this time.
Fantastic news. Well, glad to hear that one.
To deploy its companion, the new plan called for JET to issue computer commands to repeatedly start and stop the deployment of the solar array mast to allow the dissipation of any built-up tension in the blanket, such as was observed during Sunday's operation. Space Station Flight Director Jeff Hanley told JET that the engineers were confident of having the astronauts use their best judgment on how to proceed based on what they'd see during the attempt.
They did want to have you give a best effort at observing for any of this bunching and flatness, and with the idea of trying to sense that a tension spike might be coming and possibly avoid it. We pointed out to them that because you're reviewing the wing normal to the blanket, that it's going to be very difficult to pick up any tight bunching of the leaves of the blanket, and the team accepted that this would be more of a subjective call on your part as best you can implement it.
Okay, because if we miss that, then the next thing we would see would be the tension bar separating from the box, right? And then we would abort on that.
That's correct, and as stated here, the forces are going to be such with this high tension on the tension bar that we really do not expect the tension bar to come off of the box sill. That would be very unusual and definitely something we'd want to stop for.
And after another brief discussion to further refine the procedure, JET issued the first command to deploy, and the portside solar array wing began to extend. He halted the deployment after 30 seconds, allowing any tension in the solar array blankets and other hardware to damp out, and then repeated the sequence. Flight controllers closely monitored conditions at each step, and mission managers looked on as the 115-foot-long solar array wing crept out to near its full length. After more than an hour, there remained 2 spots where the astronauts reported solar panels still stuck together. To unstick them, Jet retracted each solar array blanket slightly back toward its blanket box. He cycled the latches on those boxes to generate a bit more tension on the blankets, and then twice recommanded the deploy to tug the blanket into full extension.
And Houston, good news. We show both panels have come unstuck.
Good news. Great work, guys.
With all the panels free, Jet sent the final commands to extend the solar array mast fully and then to tension those wings and complete deployment of the station's new port-side solar array wing. With the unscheduled work of the solar array deployment complete, the shuttle crew members briefly reviewed plans for Tuesday's second spacewalk of the mission to route the electricity being generated by the 2 new power channels into the rest of the International Space Station.
We have about 9 minutes left of KU coverage of this pass, and we'd like to take you up on your offer to come in on the flight deck, if that's okay.
Come on in.
Okay, we'll do that. Thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. This television live from Endeavor's aft flight deck, the aft cockpit of the space shuttle, as pilot Mike Bloomfield prepares to power up the shuttle's robotic arm to perform a photo survey of the starboard solar array wing. The solar array deployed last night. Operating the cameras for that survey using a television on the arm is Canadian astronaut Mark Garneau. Also in view in the foreground, astronaut Carlos Noriega, who along with Joe Tanner completed a 7.5-hour spacewalk yesterday to install the 50-foot-long, 35,000-pound truss atop the International Space Station and prepare the solar array wings for their extension.
And Shannon, here's the tools we typically go out with if anybody wanted to see what it looked like when it's not on our suit. Doesn't weigh much here. Lots of fun in the water, though.
Hey, thanks for showing that to us, Carlos.
Coming up in just a few minutes as Endeavour and the International Space Station move within range of Russian ground tracking sites, we do anticipate also a possibility for television from aboard the International Space Station, that television via Russian communication systems, a status report by the International Space Station crew on the progress of their mission and their activities thus far.
We're the crew of the International Space Station Alpha. We're up in orbit. We've had our second dock day together with Endeavour. Our routine today has been pretty slow. Yesterday, we were fortunate enough to watch some of the EVA uplink to us on one of the computers that we have. We have a digital circuit that shows us what's going on. We were following the P6 assembly, the joining of the truss to the station, the C1 assembly, and also a little bit of the, toward the end of the EVA, hooking up junctions, fittings, electrical connections. We were not able to see the solar array deployed. That was late last night during our sleep period. And today we can look out and see the starboard array fully extended. There are some technical issues about how the arrays are being tensioned that the ground's looking at. Endeavour, I talked to Brent Jet this afternoon about 1600. We discussed how things are going, what their plans were for tomorrow. And the EVA guys are pretty resourceful. I think that between them and the ground, they'll figure out some way to make the starboard array right. And we're looking forward to getting more power on the station, having enough to heat the node up so we can get in there routinely, and having access to the full complex of modules that we have on board.
and Endeavour Houston on air to ground 2. Com check to see if the configuration was correct for the PAO event.
Interjet, it must have been an installation installation of the P6. I was just wondering if you were disappointed it didn't go smoother, or to turn that around where it went as well as it did.
Well, I guess that's a tough one to answer. You know, we've got the array out, and that is charging the batteries on the station, and that's going well. So if everything goes smooth, that's the best case. When things go wrong and you can overcome them, a little bit of satisfaction that your training was good and that you were prepared to execute the mission. So obviously we'd like things to go better, but we're happy we've been able to overcome most of them, and hopefully we'll get this last problem as well.
Let's pass it over to Joe Tanner. Joe, those helmet cam shots were fantastic, and we invite you to send us down any spectacular views you see on the next couple of EVAs. Question for you, though, while you're out there watching that starboard solar array unfurl, the sense I got from watching it here on the ground that it was almost a crack-the-whip effect. Did it ever occur to you at any point that this thing should stop and you should go a little slower, or was it hard to tell that potentially some damage might be done?
Well, we had seen the array deploy several times on the ground, and it deployed in a different manner. And I even mentioned that, I believe, as I was watching it. And I was trying to describe exactly what it was doing in case somebody on the ground really had a concern about it. And we were thinking about and talking about on the flight deck about whether we should stop or not. We can't go any slower. There's only one rate that those will deploy unless you do it manually. We were watching it closely, and the panels were sticking together, and as it continued to deploy, the panels would unstick, and it was pretty dynamic there for a while.
Watching through the helmet cameras yesterday, I was impressed, as everybody else was, that you could get a sense of how fluidly you move out there. As a matter of fact, the motion looked so easy that it looked more like you were moving the spacecraft itself than moving yourself. Tell me a little bit more about that. We got a little disoriented watching you. How did it feel? My gosh, it was beautiful.
You must be talking about Joe's views. You're much too kind if it was my views, especially early on. It takes a while to get your sea legs out there, as I mentioned, but I know the mantra that Joe and I kept repeating over and over as we're out there is go slow, and part of that is also go smooth, because we don't want to get ourselves out of control. It really is quite easy to move around out there, and actually quite easy to overdo it if you're not careful. But overall, hopefully it was a good view. I was trying to keep it steady, not for the view so much as just to keep myself under control.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, the downside of that helmet cam, though, is that you can't get away with anything. I'm not sure I like millions of people looking over my shoulder while I'm working.
Mark Garneau, the fact that you were operating that arm, carrying that $600 million package onto its spot, was that a nerve-wracking moment for you?
Well, I have to admit, my hand was shaking a little bit, but I had two very good people backing me up, making sure I didn't make any mistakes, and of course, Joan Carlos out there guiding me down, so my job was really quite easy, but I certainly was aware of the fact that there was something very expensive on the end of the arm. Okay, well, camera C is good, so we're going to go ahead and start with step 4.1.
Copy, we concur. Upper limit on the camera is 60 degrees F.
We copy 16. We hope that's degrees C. That's what the cameras read now.
Endeavor Houston, free drift, please.
Thanks. Houston, we stopped at 1 bay.
We should be seeing a resumption of motion just a moment or two from now, and motion has resumed. The movement of those latches are on the solar array blanket box.
And Houston, we've taken it out. It looks like another half a bay total. The bats are just out of the canister, and we still didn't have any luck peeling those last two arrays panels apart from each other. One of our suggestions would be to go ahead and to retract it back in and latch it in place, and then do what Brent just did, another command to put it out momentarily and pull it back.
Copy. Good suggestion. Let us talk about it for a moment.
Mario, for information on the, we're looking at it, the right blanket, one panel's worth closer to the mast is partially peeled, and then farthest away from the mast, about half a panel is with it. I'm talking, if you count 5 across on a single panel, that's what I'm referring to as a panel. It's a section of a panel.
Copy, Carlos. Thanks for the update. We're seeing it.
Okay, Mario, if you look at the camera C picture, if you start counting the where you see the solar cells, it's the sixth. That's 6 up from the bottom.
We see it. It's the one that's a little bit darker than the rest of them in the image.
Correct, and you can also see the edges have peeled a little bit.
We see that on the both left edge and the right one. The right one seems to be peeled back a little bit more.
Yes, we agree.
Endeavor Houston with the plan.
All right.
Ms. Bloomer, we like your idea, and to be explicit, we'd like you to retract such far enough such that the tension bar is again touching the sill, and then stop the motion, and then re-engage the latches so that we get the high tension mode, and then do a quick motion outward followed by a stop. So essentially a little bump out, so the cycle between start and stop is as quick as you could probably make it with your hand motion.
Okay, that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and take the tension bar back to the box. We'll latch it, and we're going to do the right box first, and then we'll go ahead and give it a quick... And understand. We're going to pick up with the procedure now.
And just to be clear, the big picture at this point is to unlatch both boxes and press on with extending the mast.
Okay, Mario, we're going to unlatch. We don't think we need to do the 10-second and 30-second wait. We can just deploy till it, or send the command and wait for it to deploy. Is that correct?
Affirmative.
Again, those stuck solar panels on each of the two blankets on this port wing now fully unstuck, and a resumption of the deployment procedure can begin. There's about another 3 sections or so worth of solar array blanket yet to be deployed, which will be followed by a tensioning command to bring that array very taut to its fully stretched configuration. International Space Station Flight Director Jeff Hanley advising that we're ready to drive the arrays to their fully extended position. That will be followed by a tensioning command to bring those arrays very taut before they are latched in place to complete tonight's deployment. The mast is now driving to a fully extended position. Electrical Systems Officer very, very happy with the driving of the arrays to their fully extended position. Micro switches the wing now fully deployed. Micro switches confirm.
Houston Endeavor, they're going to let me make this final call. We have 2 tensioned blankets.
Copy that. Great work, gentlemen. You've got a lot of happy folks down here. We think you've earned your solar array wings, and we'll be issuing your new uniform insignia upon your return.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. There was a fair amount of tension in the cockpit.
Needless to say, the room down here was filled with electricity.